Have you ever imagined what it means to live every day knowing that your name, your identity, your entire existence could be a reason for someone to want you gone? Not because you hurt someone, not because of any mistake, but because your very presence threatens the fragile lives someone else built their hatred on. Before we begin, we want to hear from you. Which group's story of survival, hope, and resistance should we share next? Roma communities during the Holocaust, Indigenous children of Canada's residential schools, or Japanese Americans during internment? Comment below, because when you help lift up these voices, you're helping write justice into memory. This is Equal Voices Hub, where we don't just tell history, we feel it, breathe it, and carry it forward. Let's go back nearly a century, when in the 1930s, Jewish life across Europe was alive and thriving, from bustling Jewish quarters in Warsaw to peaceful Austrian towns. There were bakeries on corners where challah was braided for Shabbat. There were string quartets playing in Viennese cafes, scientists researching in Berlin labs, tailors crafting suits in Budapest, and poets writing in Yiddish, German, Hungarian, and Ladino. Jewish children played hopscotch in cobbled streets, ran home to mothers who sang in Hebrew, Ladino, or Russian. They were teachers, craftsmen, veterans, midwives, friends, neighbors. They were Europe, but hatred doesn't need facts. It only needs someone to blame. Germany, reeling from its loss in World War I and the economic devastation that followed, was fertile ground for a scapegoat. Adolf Hitler rose through this chaos, preaching that Jews were responsible for Germany's collapse. They were, he claimed, traitors, corrupt, dangerous. But it wasn't just Hitler. It was a machinery of propaganda, fear, and institutional racism. Textbooks were rewritten. Radio waves filled with anti-Semitic bile. Children learned songs about Jewish conspiracies. Films like The Eternal Jew dehumanized their neighbors. The Nazis didn't invent anti-Semitism, they industrialized it. Jewish professors were dismissed, businesses defaced. A 10-year-old Jewish girl in Munich suddenly found herself alone at recess, her classmates told to stay away from her kind. A Jewish physician in Hamburg was stripped of his license, then beaten in the street by men in uniform. And the world watched and stayed silent. By 1935, the Nuremberg laws formalized this racism. Jews lost their citizenship, intermarriage was banned. Jewish ancestry, even just one Jewish grandparent, was now grounds for exclusion. Your religion didn't matter, your politics didn't matter, your kindness didn't matter, only your blood. Then came Kristallnacht, November 1938, the night of broken glass. In one coordinated nationwide assault, Nazi mobs torched 1,400 synagogues, smashed the windows of over 7,000 Jewish-owned businesses, looted homes, and arrested 30,000 Jewish men. Fire lit the skies over Berlin, Munich, Leipzig. And still, the world didn't stop them. When Germany invaded Poland in 1939, the true horror began. Jews were forced into ghettos, overcrowded walled-in sections of cities where starvation, disease, and fear were daily realities. The Warsaw Ghetto held over 400,000 Jews in just 1.3 square miles, 5 families to a room, 1 toilet for hundreds, soup made from potato peelings and hope. Children scurried beneath fences to smuggle food. Doctors operated in cellars. Teachers taught math with chalk on walls. Musicians played broken instruments, and when they buried their dead, sometimes dozens a day, they whispered Kaddish with trembling voices. But even in the darkest of places, they resisted. There was a poet named Władysław Szlengel who secretly wrote verses about the ghetto's sorrow and courage. He buried them in jars so that if he died, the world might still know what had happened. Those jars were found years later. And so we know that families were told they were being or that they packed what little they had and climbed aboard trains. That these trains didn't take them to safety but to extermination camps designed for one purpose: mass death. Auschwitz, Treblinka, Majdanek, Sobibor, Chelmno, Belzec. Gas chambers disguised as showers. Crematoria that burned bodies day and night. Piles of shoes, mountains of hair, lists of names that stopped in silence. 6 million Jews murdered, 6 million names. But even inside the camps, resistance endured. In Auschwitz, prisoners risked their lives to take photographs of what the Nazis tried to hide, images that would become undeniable evidence. Some dug tunnels, some planned uprisings, some whispered prayers each night. Not because they believed they'd lived, but because they believed their humanity must not die. The Sonderkommando Jews forced to work in the gas chambers secretly, documented what they saw and buried notes in tin cans beneath the dirt. In 1943, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising became one of the most powerful symbols of resistance in modern history. Starving, outnumbered, and surrounded, Jewish fighters held off Nazi forces for nearly a month with homemade weapons and sheer will. They didn't expect to survive. They fought so that the world could never say. They went like sheep to the slaughter, as one fighter said. We are dying, but not in shame, not in silence. And yet so much of the world was silent. When Allied troops liberated the camps in 1945, they stumbled into nightmares. Human skeletons barely alive, mass graves, survivors too weak to speak. Many soldiers wept. Others vomited. The world was finally forced to confront what silence had allowed when what of the survivors, Gerda Wiseman Klein, just 15 when the war began. She was forced into a labor camp, then endured a 350-mile death march through snow. Her toes were frostbitten, her entire family was gone, but she survived. She met the American soldier who rescued her and married him. She went on to speak to millions, reminding them that hate is never right, love is never wrong. Elie Wiesel, only a teenager when he entered Auschwitz, he watched his mother and sister disappear. He held his father's hand as he died. He later said, "I no longer believed in God. I believed in humanity and I was afraid." Yet he spent his life teaching, writing, bearing witness because forgetting would be the final death. Many survivors never spoke. They couldn't. The pain was too deep, the memories too sharp. But some opened their hearts so that we might understand even just a little what happens when racism goes unchecked. And then, there were the rescuers. Irena Sendler, a Polish Catholic social worker who smuggled over 2,500 Jewish children out of the Warsaw Ghetto. She forged documents, hid children in suitcases, gave infants sleeping medicine so they wouldn't cry, buried their real names in jars in her garden, hoping one day families might be reunited. She was caught, tortured, but she never gave up a name. And because of her, generations exist today who would not have after the war. Survivors faced another silence. Where do you go when your village is gone? When your neighbors turned you in? When your synagogue is rubble? Some moved to Israel, others to the United States, to Canada, to Australia. Many spent years in displaced persons camps, just waiting for someone to say, "You belong here," and still, they built new lives. They fell in love. They had children. They told stories, slowly, painfully. They founded schools, lit menorahs again, sang lullabies again, danced at weddings again. And in doing so, they proved that hope is stronger than hate. Today, their children are artists, doctors, judges, astronauts, musicians, teachers. They carry the stories, the memories, the pain, but also the pride, because survival wasn't just a chance, it was a choice. But we must not believe that the Holocaust is only a chapter in a history book. It is a mirror. Antisemitism still walks among us on the internet, in politics, in the shadows of conspiracy theories, and in the spotlight of hate-fueled violence. It murdered 11 worshippers in a synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018. It has defaced cemeteries, burned schools, threatened students. It denies, it distorts, it fests. And so, memory must become action. Education must become protection. Compassion must become courage, because racism doesn't always come wrapped in swastikas. Sometimes it comes in silence, in laughter at a cruel joke, in excuses for the powerful, in forgetting. That's why Equal Voices Hub exists, because remembering is more than mourning. It's resistance. It's justice. It's a promise that no story will be buried. So, again, we ask you, what voice should rise next? The Roma women who sabotaged Nazi bombs from inside the camps. The indigenous children of Canada who survived the horrors of residential schools. The Japanese-American families who lost everything to internment but never gave up on dignity. Comment below, because you're not just watching a video, you're part of a living memory. A collective conscience, a human promise. You're choosing to listen when others would look away. You're choosing to carry voices that others tried to silence. You're choosing hope. And that is how we survive. This is Equal Voices Hub. Let the voices rise.